No.
Trust me,
Paper's back.
you like the smell of the paperback back. All right. Some of you guys are missing because you had a urination party apparently. So here we go. That was weird. All right, Acts chapter 9. If you guys will remember, a few weeks ago we talked about Acts chapter 9. Probably before Easter we talked about Acts chapter 9. Paul was on the road to Damascus, and actually Saul was on the road to Damascus, and he was a bad guy. Why was he a bad guy? Somebody tell me.
He persecuted people.
Okay, killing Christians, what did you say?
He persecuted them.
Persecuted people. Okay? So basically, on his way to Damascus, he was on his way to get letters so that he could persecute and kill more Christians. Okay, bad guy. The next thing that happened on the road was God shone a bright light, blinded him, he fell off his horse, and then couldn't see for 3 days. He was taken to a guy by the name of Ananias, who prayed over him. His life was changed. Okay, Acts chapter 9, it actually says, he immediately preached Jesus in the synagogue. There we go. Immediately he preached Christ in the synagogue that he, Jesus, is the Son of God. Okay? He didn't go to school for it. Okay? He didn't go to special school. He didn't read like 17 weeks worth of Sunday school material. He didn't read the Old Testament. I mean, he already knew the Old Testament. He was pretty good at it, by the way. But here's the thing. Immediately at his change of life, his lifestyle changed. Okay? I don't want you guys to miss this. His lifestyle immediately changed. He went from being a death breather to a life giver. Okay? He went from a persecutor to eventually one who would be persecuted. Okay? So over the next few minutes, what we're going to do is we're going to track through the rest of the book of Acts, like on fast forward. Okay? So Acts chapter 21, verse 11. Okay? Check this out. This is a few years down the road. Paul's visiting with some friends. And when he says he's got to go, verse 11 says, when he had come to us, he took Paul's belt, bound his own hands and his feet, and said, thus says the Holy Spirit, so shall the Jews at Jerusalem bind the man who owns this belt and deliver him into the hands of the Gentiles. This man comes to Paul, takes Paul's belt off, and says, Paul, as my hands are bound, you will be led to your death in the town that you go to. I mean, there's some encouraging people in my world, okay? But nobody's told me that when I go to my next town, I will be bound and drugged to death. Nobody's ever said that. I mean, I had some people in Crandall go, Leno, are you sure they don't have internet or running water? I'm like, it's totally fine. We'll make it. Right? I mean, it's totally possible. But here's the thing. I've had some encouraging people, but nobody tell me the next place I go, I will die. Here's Paul's response. Check this out, verse 13 and 14. Then Paul answered, what do you mean by weeping and breaking my heart? He's like, that's such a sad story that you're worried about my health and my life. Okay, verse 13. For I'm ready not only to be bound, but also to die at Jerusalem for the name of Lord Jesus Christ. Verse 14. So when he would not be persuaded, we cease saying, the will of the Lord be done. I don't know if you get this picture. See, this is picture in my mind that all of a sudden he's like, oh, you bunch of sorry saps, I'm going to go die for my Jesus. That's really what he's saying. Because he's saying, I know my persecution is going to happen. I've already talked to God. God and I have worked it out, and I'm cool with it. Because in another passage, he says, to live is Christ and to die is gain. It's like, what is this life worth here? I mean, it's worth a lot to a lot of people. But it's worth more if I get to go to heaven. But Paul knew what that story meant, and he was willing to share it with anybody, regardless of the persecution he would face. Some of y'all are worried about not using fake earbuds because you're wanting to not be called like a poser or a faker or whatever. I'm like, dude, if I can get some AirPods that are like $7 off a Wish, and they work,
Buddy.
shut your mouth, I'm going to use them, right?
Smarter than you to not spend that much.
Right? But some of y'all are worried about what you wear and what you don't wear because somebody's going to say something. Like, let it go. Is that the worst that people in Lano are going to do to you, is talk about how you look and how you dress? Give me a break. Like, if your self-esteem is wrapped up in what people who are lost and hateful and mean, if your self-esteem is wrapped up in what hateful people say about you, you need Jesus Christ to heal your heart and to allow you to understand what He knows and says about you. I want to go back to Paul. First thing before we go to Acts 21, I want to let you guys know this. It took him a long time to prove that his life had changed. It took him a long time to prove to the other people that he wasn't, I'm coming in and I'm coming in strong and no, I'm going to persecute you after I get into the temple. Okay? It took him a long time to do that. Here's why. It's because his previous life was so heinous. 1 John chapter 2, verse 6 says, if you claim to walk with Jesus, you need to walk like Jesus walked. Meaning this, I don't mean like, hey, you know. Some people have a pretty cool walk. I think Jesus had a pretty cool walk because it wasn't how He walked or what shoes He wore, but how His character was portrayed when He was walking into a school, when He was walking into Subway, when He was walking into Taco Bell, when He was walking into Dairy Queen or Fuel or whatever the case may be, when He's walking into the locker room, that He talks to people with dignity and respect everywhere He went. Listen, I realize it's the last 2 weeks before school is out. But listen, these are the prime times where some of y'all are stressed to the max. And if you cannot handle your stress and walk with Jesus, we need to work on your walk with Jesus, because stressed or not, we're still on the same team. Listen, we're all believers in here. And listen, if we can't get along and we can't treat each other nice and we can't encourage one another, then when we get out of this room, we're sure not going to be able to encourage and love the world. I mean, on the baseball team, do you hear more discouragement or encouragement?
Discouragement.
Okay? What do you hear? I'm just asking, not tooting my own horn. I'm trying to make you an example. What do you hear from me when you come off the field?
Encouragement.
Okay. If I'm having a bad day, do you know it?
Yeah. Sometimes. Not really.
Someday.
Very
Okay.
rarely.
Very rarely, okay.
For the people I talk to,
You know I have bad days, but do I waver, like going from like happy-go-lucky, or do I like want to pinch like people's heads?
no, you don't make it noticeable.
Days bad. You keep it to yourself.
Okay, say that again, Paige.
You don't make other people's days bad. You just like keep it to yourself.
Well,
Cool.
the air conditioning is really, really loud in here. Can you give that to me one more time?
You don't make other people's days bad. You just keep it to yourself.
So here's the thing. Love people. Doesn't matter what they've done to you or how friendly they've been to you. Treat everybody with the same Christ-likeness that brought you to Christ. Because that's what gives you credit when you go out into the world. If you act like everybody else, listen, watch, and do all the things that everybody else does, and I think that's one of the things that aggravates me about Lano sometimes, is that there's a lot of people that start waving the flag of Jesus anytime anything goes wrong. But when it comes to asking them to be holy in their lifestyle, Christ-like in their lifestyle, that's just their Sunday thing.
Are you talking about treating people the same at school and at work like we treat them when we're here?
Yes.
Oh,
Like, whoa. I just want to say, 24/7. Just saying.
There's always.
Well, that means how we treat them here needs to be different than how we treat them everywhere else, too.
This ought to be the example of how we treat people here. That being said, that gives you credit so that when you, like Paul, walk out of the synagogue into the Gentiles and the unbelievers, that you have credit to the I love Jesus. Okay? I want to say that this is something we all need to work on. Okay? We all need to work on. But I am going to tell you that if you want to be a witness for Christ in your school, in your family, in your friendships, in your locker room, on the band, in the buses, on the playground, at Chickadee, wherever the case may be, listen, this is something we all have to work on. So verse 13 and 14, you see, I love Christ enough to lose my life, verse 13 and 14. Verse 19 and 20, moving on. When they had greeted him, he told in detail those things which God had done among the Gentiles through his ministry. And when they heard it, they glorified the Lord, and they said to him, you see, brother, how many myriads, like thousands of Jews, there are who believe, and they are zealous for the law. Okay? But verse 21 says this, but there are some that have been informed that you teach all Jews that are among the Gentiles to forsake Moses. So basically they're saying, there's a lot of people that love you, Paul, but don't make no mistake, there's a lot of people that hate you. Okay? And I realize that that's the case because you can wake up one day and somebody likes you, and then on Tuesday, they had a bad day or it was a full moon, and they don't like you anymore. Okay? That just happens, right? You've got to find a way of pushing through that and recognizing that that's one part of 365 days of the year. That's one moment. You cannot be a victim of one moment. You have to be the victor of a lifetime. Okay? Baseball. JJ, I'm not picking on you tonight, but you're my prime example. We have not won a lot of games. But your character, listen to me, your character is going to be the thing that tells me whether or not you're a victim or you're a victor. Okay? Because you can't let one moment of sadness or depression or frustration get the best of you. Because Paul could have easily have said, oh wait, they don't like me? And quit. Oh wait, there's thousands of Jews who love me. But you know what he said? There's thousands of Jews that don't love me, and they're the ones that need Jesus. I'm headed straight to that place. And there's a missionary that says, I'd rather sleep within 50 yards of hell than 100 feet from a church bell. Because he knows that that's the people who need to know Jesus the most. Haley, does it fit in the fly?
Yes, it's just a really short story.
Okay.
So I went to a baseball game last night for a friend of mine. I was babysitting our kids, so I took them. But one of the little kids, got hit in the face with a baseball, right in the mouth. And he cried for like 2 seconds, but he was up next to bat, and he was their best runner. And so he went on anyways. He ran. He got a home run, but he was crying the whole time. But he got the home run, and he was still went up to the bat and everything.
Persevered.
Because he knew his team needed him.
There you go. Because here's the thing. As a team, we are a team. I don't even know if you understand that or not, but we're a team. Okay? We're family. And some of y'all don't understand family the way God's family should work. You're still learning that. But being a part of a team is we support one another. We encourage one another. We pick each other up. Because we have a greater purpose together. Listen, I'm telling you, you junior high girls, and I've said it probably for a year, and I've said it to other adults, and I'm saying it to you now. You guys, your age group right here will absolutely rock the entire Llano ISD the longer you love and serve Christ before you graduate. You guys are going to have more influence on your school than any other generation of students. You guys, you girls, as you guys impact the world, it's going to start at Llano High School. Okay? Llano 8th grade, Llano High School, over the next couple of years. I guarantee it.
But you have to choose it.
What she said. Or what she did while what was this? That
Okay.
thing? Oh, that?
Okay.
Okay, good. Good, because I got like 5 minutes. Okay? Acts 21, verses 27 through 31. Check this out. Now then, 7 days were almost ended. The Jews from Asia, seeing him in the temple, stirred up the whole crowd, and they laid hands on him, crying, Men of Israel, this is the man who teaches all men against the people the law, blah, blah, blah. Verse 29. Just saying, I've got short time. Verse 30, and all the city was disturbed, and the people ran together and seized Paul, dragged him out of the temple, and immediately the doors were shut. Now as they were seeking to kill him, news came to the commander of the garrison of all Jerusalem. He was in an uproar. And he immediately took soldiers and centurions and ran to them, and they saw the commander and the soldiers stop beating Paul. Okay, but here's the crazy thing. He was seized and dragged out of the city with the intent to beat him and kill him. Acts chapter 22, verse 30. He eventually demands an audience with his accusers. Why? Why does Paul want an audience with his accusers? Say it, give her name.
We can tell them about Jesus.
Amen. Okay? Acts 23. Acts 23, verse 11. Check this out. But the following night, after Paul had been in prison for a while, he says, "Be of good cheer, Paul." This is Jesus talking. "For as you testified for me in Jerusalem, so you must also bear witness to me at Rome." So Jesus is coming to him and saying, "Hey, Paul, I know it's been rough, but I got another assignment for you." It's like, "Hey, I know you've been in preseason football, okay? You just had your physical. We're having preseason football, but hey, guess what? 2 weeks from now, you're going to the Super Bowl. You're going to the biggest stage in all of the world at that point, because you're going to get to stand in front of Caesar, in front of the man who controls the whole world." Literally, at that point, okay, Dwayne, you're our relative historian, okay, at that point, Caesar is the king of the world.
Go, yeah.
Essentially.
Rome ruled the known world and all civilized parts that were known to the Western world at that time.
Except for parts of
Except for a little bit of the Persian Empire.
in Britain.
Well, that wasn't civilized.
It's true, that wasn't civilized.
Neither was the Germans.
Right? Okay, Acts 23, verse 23. This is crazy. This may be my favorite verse of the entire night. Acts 23, verse 23. "And he called 2 centurions, saying, Prepare 200 soldiers, 70 horsemen." I lost count. 200 soldiers, 70 horsemen, and 200 spearmen. "And go to Caesarea at the 3rd hour of the night." Listen, add them up. 200 soldiers, 200 spearmen, and that's 470 people. Why? Because they're afraid of Paul. They're afraid of the ruckus Paul will bring. Because they know when Paul comes into a town, he tells people about Jesus, and all of a sudden there's a ruckus. A brouhaha. A parade of sorts. This is crazy. Like everywhere Paul goes, Roman soldiers have to pull him out because he's going to get stoned or beat to death. This is crazy to me. Can you imagine, I just want to say, can you imagine Paul on a horse going to Caesarea Philippi from wherever he was going, and there's 200 soldiers behind him, 200 soldiers in front of him, and 35 and 35. He is surrounded by Roman soldiers.
What they wanted him to do.
Guess what he's doing? Hey, buddy. You met this man Jesus? I met him on a horse. There was a bright light. Hey, buddy. Roll down your window. Did you hear about Jesus? But here's the crazy thing. He knows where he's going, right? Where's he going? He's eventually going to the king of the world. Okay? Not Titanic king of the world. That's totally not where we're going. But check this out, okay? Verse 35, some other stuff happens. Acts 24:1, he's in jail for 5 more days. Verse 10, Paul defended himself in court by telling people about Jesus. Okay? Paul was left in jail for a few more days. Acts 24:27, Paul was left in jail for 2 more years. Okay? Acts 25, when he was on trial, he told people about Jesus. Okay? This is the crazy thing. Acts 25, verse 11. Let me change my page. I love this. Man, I can teach this all day. It says, "For if I'm an offender or have committed anything deserving death, I do not object to dying." Why?
Who knows
To
where he's
live is
going?
Christ, to die is gain. Man's got his priorities. "But if there's nothing in these of which these men accuse me, no one can deliver me to them. I appeal to Caesar." You know what he says? "Take me to your boss." I love saying that. That's so much fun. Like when you're talking on the phone to like somebody who doesn't understand you, like, hey, I want to talk to your boss, and they're like, okay, you know? But at this point, he wants to go to Caesar. He wants to go to the top of the ladder. He wants to go to the very top. Because if you get to the top, all mess flows down. The direction of the entire Roman Empire flowed down. Everything that was politics or war or policy flowed from the top down. So if you influence the top, you influence the bottom immediately. So understand this. Paul's wanting to go to the top because if he's going to reach the world for Christ, he's going to start at the top and it'll work its way down to the bottom. So here's the crazy thing. He gets his appeal answered in Acts 26, 1 through 23. He gives his testimony of what happened to him on the road. Acts 26, verse 24. Check this out. 26, right page. Now, as he was making his defense, Festus said with a loud voice, Paul, you are beside yourself. Much learning has driven you mad. Festus is looking at Paul going, dude, you're nuts. I mean, you, French fries sort of a Happy Meal, okay? Like the light's on, but nobody's home, Paul. Come on. He's literally telling Paul, are you serious?
Yes.
Why does this happen? Because listen, who would appeal, being innocent, who would appeal to Caesar knowing that Caesar could off with your head? This is craziness. It's craziness. But Paul says, I'm not nuts. Acts 26, verse 25. Paul says this, I'm not mad, most noble Festus, but speak the words of truth and reason. Listen, I don't expect everybody in Llano County to understand Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior can change their life and can make a difference in the lives of people around them. I don't even expect everybody in youth group to pay attention every week. I don't. I hope so. Because I understand, like, if you're taking a first aid course, you don't want to fall asleep in first aid because at some point there's going to be a drowning victim when you go swimming and you're going to go, I don't know, I had to go to the bathroom during that point. Good luck to you!
Truth.
Right? Like, I don't want to miss this. This is too significant. So this is what Paul's saying. It's like, this is the most important thing that I can tell you, and I'm not crazy. I'm not mad. I'm completely sane because this is the truth that's changed my life. So here's the crazy thing. Acts 26, 28. And then Agrippa said to Paul, you almost persuaded me to become a Christian. It may be the saddest verse. But here's the thing. Paul accomplished what he was set out to do. He accomplished everything that Jesus told him to do. You're going to make your appeal to Rome. You're going to appeal to Caesar. What does that mean? He did his job. Listen, sometimes as a 7th grader, just do your job. Go to school, tell people about Jesus, come home, do your chores, and then do it all over again. Okay? You're a believer in Jesus Christ. Love your parents, love other people, job done. Your job is not to change the world. That's God's job. Listen, I can't reach everybody in Llano. God's job. Make sense? Just do your job. At the end of Paul's life in 2 Timothy chapter 4, he says, I finished the race. I fought the good fight. I'm totally satisfied with everything that I've done. Listen, I'm going to be completely honest with you. About 15 years ago, my mom told me that she was having a change of lifestyle, and if you want to go into specifics, you can ask me later. But my mom had a relationship for about 10 years, 10, 12 years, and eventually it was very difficult for me to even take my son to go see my mom because of the relationship she had. And here's the thing. Eventually, I prayed that relationship out. But during that entire time, all I could tell my mom was about the love of Jesus Christ, about what Jesus Christ had done for me and the change that He'd made in me. And every Christmas and every birthday, she got some kind of Christian book. Because I was never going to give up on that, because I knew right before she left for Washington State, she said to me this. She goes, I know what I'm doing is wrong. God's told me so, and I don't care. Like, if you want to light the fire for your own, like, whatever, go ahead. But listen, this is the crazy thing. I had never given up on that moment. But listen, my mom's got what they call Lewy body disease, and it's basically a form of dementia. And like, understand this. This is like talking to my mom right now. Like, if I were to fold this page over, literally, this is talking to my mom. It's like reading this line right here, skipping over to this line, skipping over to this line. It's like switching channels in the middle of a commercial. My mom is not coherent all the time to where if I were to sit down with her and give her one of these books that I could explain it to her and her to have a conversation. But understand this, I know at this point I have done everything in my power and my wisdom, and I keep praying for more, to know that my mom, when she dies, that she would go to heaven. Listen, I've done everything that I can. But I will guarantee you this, I have no security in the fact that my mom's ever going to make it to heaven. I have no security in that. If my mom goes tomorrow, I have no idea where she's going. But the backside of that story, the hopeful story, the good part of that story is I never gave up. Listen, I remember December 24th, about 6 years ago, my mom told me, if you're going to continue to tell me about Jesus, don't talk to me anymore. I didn't have a conversation with my mom for another year and a half. At Christmas, y'all. Like at Jesus' birthday, I get the, I ain't talking to you no more. But because I'd loved my mom and cared for my mom up to that point, even in her darkest day, about a year later when she did decide to call me, it was because she was in her most desperate need. In her most desperate moment, she called me, and in that moment I was able to rescue her from a really, really bad situation. Because I had shared Christ with her in a loving, compassionate way, not treat her like crap. I say crap.
Yeah.
We're upstairs, maybe in the other building, probably not. I'd have to say decent. But because I didn't, listen, because all throughout that relationship, I never talked down to her. I never treated her differently. In fact, I think I tried to love her into the kingdom probably more than I should have. If you could actually do that. But it was all for one goal. It was all for one thing, is to know that that person would go to heaven when they die. That they would experience hope and peace and joy in this life. But that's why we tell people about Jesus. So that their lives can be changed the way Paul's life was changed. The way it's been changed for Renee and for Dwayne and for Ashley and Dusty and Leslie and the other adults. And you know, if you guys ever get a chance, sit down and talk to Haley and ask her how her life was changed over the last 6 years of youth group. And then go tell that story. Listen, it doesn't have to be perfectly packaged. Paul wasn't a preacher when he started telling people about Jesus. He was just somebody who had met Jesus 3 days before. That's it. I'll tell you this, Romans chapter 9, verse 3. I don't know if I put this on the slides or not, but if I did, great. If not, I'll read it loud and proud. Look at that. Paul says this, Romans chapter 9, verse 3, and then we'll pray and split. For if I could, wish that myself were accursed for my Christ, for my brethren, my countrymen, according to the flesh. What is he saying there? If I could give my life for my friends, my family, my countrymen, so that they can know Christ, I'd be okay with it. Some of y'all are mad because somebody takes your seat at the lunch line or at the lunch table. Paul was willing to take the cross for his friends. Just saying, I'm not asking you to go that far. Really, all I'm asking is that you would love God and love people.
Yeah, that's a lot. The fact that Jesus sweat great drops of blood, and yet he's saying, I'm perfectly willing to do it.
That's your kid.
Yeah, kind of being proud over here. Yeah.
If I had any more cookies, I'd give you one.